believe it or not, you are in one of those two clips. Anything in the middle is just win the next election without people like myself. Your guy got elected because of us. People like Dave Smith, people like Joe Rogan. You played on that. Woke would be this FEMA law. Let's proudly proclaim woke right. He probably used woke right 5 or 6 different times on the air, on Twitter. He says it how it is. Ben Shapiro. He's a conservative. I'm a conservative. We should kind of meet in the middle and agree, right? Absolutely not. As you can tell from a certain word that he uses to talk about many people on the right, that he uses as a derogatory term, there is definitely a giant schism within the conservative, or at least the right's population these days. You got a guy like him over here. You got a guy like me over there. And that is because, and we'll touch on it a tiny bit in this video, it's not a thin line at all. It's a real thick one. It's very divisive stuff, and it was bound to happen. You know, when you have the other side was so bad at their job that you're bringing people from all over the place over to this side, those people aren't really on the same side. They just share an enemy. It's a really quick explanatory segue. This video was and is essentially about the woke right. But this thing happened where Bill Burr and Ben Shapiro are going at it, and the use of the word woke was there. So I decided that I would use the opportunity to tell people what the original meaning of woke was and what this woke right supposedly is, and show y'all that chances are you are woke right. There was a little back and forth, or at least a rebuttal by Ben to Bill Burr. Ben is totally within his rights to kind of come at Bill because Bill called him out by name. I'm just going to go ahead and play what Bill had to say.
Shapiro talked about going to one of your shows and complaining about you becoming woke, which sort of then created this...
He doesn't even know what that word means.
Let me
His definition of woke is white liberals' definition of woke, and they didn't even know what it was. Yeah. They just took the word from black people. That's the worst thing about our people, is not only do we take from other cultures, we don't even take the time to understand the definition. Yeah. He went there to be annoyed so he can then have something to talk about, like that idiot Ben Shapiro. No, he's woke now. He's like, I don't... That guy, someone came to me and goes, hey man, he was trying to bring me into his fold. At one point, the guy liked me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then when I didn't, then all of a sudden I'm supposed to look at that guy like he's an adult.
Well, okay, all right, Bill. I'm just going to go into Ben's rebuttal. I don't want to give any input, but I will say real quick that there's probably some of you guys out there watching who are conservatives going, well, he says it how it is. He's a guy that I thought was on our side. I can't do the voice. But my point is, I hope you didn't think that there was anything conservative about Bill Burr. Like this is some sort of letdown, all right? Here's what Ben said.
I said that he had gone woke. I'm glad he's laughing at himself because nobody else is, man. What a fall. We should give the people refunds because they paid for Bill Burr at Red Rock and they got Joy Behar at the dive bar. You're the guy who came in second in the Billy Corgan lookalike contest because he showed up sloppy drunk and forgot to shave. Again. So here's what I mean by wokeness. You actually do have a definition, and I've done it over and over and over on the show. And it's not really my definition. It's the definition that Richard Delgado and Gene Stefanchik, who literally wrote a book on critical race theory, laid out in explaining their basic principles, which match up with wokeness. 1, racism is ordinary, not aberrational. And second, our system of white over color ascendancy serves important purposes, both psychic and material. So you put those together, and what that means that the system of America, in short, is designed to create racially disparate outcomes. Any proof of racially disparate outcomes is evidence of the malignancy of the system. Now, there's another element of wokeness that is self-contradictory here, that there is a racial essentialism that stops you from criticizing as unfactual the viewpoints of others. You don't understand because you're not black, or you can't understand because you're not gay. And this ends conversations. And it contradicts the fundamental basis of wokeness, because the basis of wokeness is that everybody is basically the same, which means all group outcomes should be the same, which means any inequality of group outcome is evidence of systemic inequity.
Well, damn. These people irritate me so much that I'm doing my Andrew Wilson, but shout out to him, fellow Michigander, even though I'm in NC now. Ben just went after Bill with the personal thing. You know, he didn't really talk too much about the actual view expressed or anything like that. That's kind of a common theme with him. If you look at the situation with Candace and all the times her and others, Dave Smith, have asked to debate him and he just ignores it, but yet he'll throw insults. Anyway, as far as that term woke, well, first, Bill Burr. He's always been woke. And by woke, I mean, he's always been on the left. You know, he's been the kind of guy that'll call out some BS on the left when stuff goes too far. But if Ben's over here acting as though he's knowledgeable about what Bill does, what he's been about throughout his career. Bill, since the beginning, one of the main groups that he ever criticized in his act were conservative Catholics, essentially. I believe he grew up one. He's always called that out. He's always talked about like racism in the South. You know, a lot of people say that he's gotten more woke since he married a woman of color. I don't really think so. I just think that more of us got political, more of us started caring what he had to say politically. He'd always been on the left. The guy basically has a socialist point of view. Those big long interviews on Rogan definitely show that. I mean, Rogan was looking conservative. Like I'm talking like 3 years ago, Rogan was looking conservative with Bill on the show. It's no surprise that these are Bill's views. And, you know, for Ben to kind of go at him like that, we have to remember that Ben is a political commentator. You know, Bill's a comedian. And I understand you have some power of influence over people by being a public figure, by being a comedian. But he's an observational comic. An observational comic observes and talks about what he sees around him. And yeah, he has taken plenty of shots at people on the far left as well. Ben does fit the archetype, and he kind of proved that he was the kind of DB that Bill was calling out, and I'm going to explain why now. On the same day that Ben was yelling woke at Bill Burr, you know, yelling the obvious, he probably used woke right 5 or 6 different times on the air, on Twitter. People like him they think they're crafty, right? Woke it became the absolute worst thing you could call somebody that so much is lean to the right. Shoot, even people dead center were like, do not call me woke. It's the biggest insult you can call somebody, right? Someone like him is throwing, someone like him, James Lindsay, who actually disappoints me with it. That Constantine kissing guy or whatever, kissing Constantine, I don't know. But those guys throw this woke right thing around, and it's made to be an insult. And the reason they do it is because if they call you woke, it might make you go, oh, wait a minute, to get people to shut up and to stop sharing their opinions. A lot of the people they're calling woke right are new to the right. They're new Republican voters. They were libertarians. They were centrists. They were, you know, so they're MAGA for the most part, but they're MAGA very much because Trump doesn't fit the mold of just a stereotypical Republican or what they grew up thinking a Republican was. It's a movement, and it's something totally different. So anyways, when you start throwing that word at those people, the whole reason that they came over and voted Republican was because they just could not take the woke stuff no more. It wasn't even so much like they were there to help preserve conservative values. No, they were there to end that other lack of values. So by you alienating them, you're alienating the people that won the election. That's what you're doing. The obvious reaction to being called woke right is to defend yourself and tell all the different ways on how you're not. And obviously, let's not do that anymore. Let's proudly proclaim woke right. And I'm going to tell you why it's something to be proud of. Woke, now I know that I went and looked it up just to see if there were earlier usages of it. And of course, they attributed it to some stuff that nobody under the age of 80 do. So anyways, growing up as a teen in the 90s, in the hip hop generation, woke was you were awake to the way that you were oppressed by the powers that be, not necessarily by being black, not because you were any type of minority. It was more of a classist thing. Kind of like Carlin says, it's a big club and you and I ain't in it, or however he said that. And it was kind of a positive because, it actually brought people together in the street who normally wouldn't come together like that, much like the voting base in this election that won this election, right? No matter what your ancestry was, it didn't matter your religion, none of that stuff, you were getting equally screwed by the government. And this would mean that, you kind of could read between the lines and see that the story you're fed on JFK wasn't true. There were secret societies that controlled a lot of things, backroom deals to keep power and money in the hands of certain people, that sort of thing. The CIA with the Iran-Contra thing and how the cocaine explosion was caused by, call them rogue, people within our government. Now notice, all of these things have been proven true, right? And the reason why people got behind Trump was, we're going to elect a guy who's not a part of the system, that's been screwing everybody, the bottom 98%, essentially since day one. We're going to bring forth something new that's going to fix all that. We're going to drain the swamp. Okay. But people like Ben Shapiro think that questioning things, makes you crazy. In other words, woke was the conspiracy theorist, essentially. But there was a little more of black consciousness and stuff like that in it. But for the most part, it was that. I want to show basically who popularized woke in the streets. What was it, 35 years ago? Roll it.
Wake up!
Do Right Thing opened June 30th, 1989, and is relevant as if it came out yesterday. I think that's a testament to the truths that have been in my films. School days wake up.
Please, wake up.
And the first two words, do the right thing.
Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake!
So I think that American films since then, somehow I've had somebody say, wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up!
Wake up, white man. Sorry, who am I talking to?
I love history. A lot of stuff people weren't taught in this country. My fellow Americans, and particularly the younger generation, are out there in the streets, joining hands with their black and brown brothers and sisters.
Not that I need any other support to make my claim true, but this guy put it really well. You should subscribe to his channel. I got his link down below.
OG woke was about being aware of injustices, and there was also an element of being spiritually awake. And I was there right from the beginning. Well, not the beginning, I don't know, it existed before I did, but woke became very trendy in the 90s with the conscious hip-hop movement and Afrocentrism. Every day I was listening to Diggable Planets and Tribe Called Quest and Jungle Brothers, and I knew what time it was because of what the popular culture of the 90s exposed me to. And I consider myself woke, and we were also anti-establishment, anti-big business, anti-farmer, and we were all hippie leftists too. Afrocentric hippie leftists. That's what woke was. I know that. But when I say woke today, I can't use woke in that sense anymore and expect people to understand me, because if you say woke today, it means far left.
There you have it. That guy doesn't talk that fast. I just know you guys have absolutely no attention span. Takes one to know one, so I like what he had to say there. And you got to understand that when this woke thing was happening, and granted, it didn't have the name so much. You might have heard the word in the street or whatever, but really, the whole woke thing really exploded after 9/11. Actually, more specifically, going overseas to war over 9/11. And the questions that were asked during that period, and the lies that were told, that we now know were told. So that's what we're talking about here. So along with that, and also more information sharing between people, I wrote a Substack article about how around, I think it was like 2012 or something, I was staying with an uncle, rest in peace, Jimmy, who was a really good guy. And we spent a lot of time, because we really clicked on certain things, as far as that the media has always been lying to you. We talked a lot about things like MK Ultra, which did happen. Now, granted, that OG version of woke did start to go a little bit off the rails, where people went from just, secret societies and all that kind of stuff to like that there were aliens here and that the earth was flat and things like that. Lizard people, that was the best. But anyways, interestingly enough, Bill Burr is right. It was the right that took that term and kind of made it an insult to drop on people who were just, let's be honest, ridiculous, far leftists. If you made it this far and you didn't realize which way I lean, God bless you. But anyway, the right did take it and start using it as an absolute insult. Woke was about finding things that were true that was being held back from you. These are just like far left social issues and talking points and manipulation and things like that. And I'm not saying anything bad about the right for using that term and attributing it to people who had these views, because the term was already out there. Some of it was a little bit race related and things like that. So it's kind of like, well, I heard this person use it who's off the rocker. I heard that person's use it this off the rocker. So these are all the crazy people, the woke people. These are the far lefties. These are the weirdos. And made anybody who was considered woke the enemy of the, not just the right, but anybody who had common sense. And I completely agree that those people are that. As far as the woke right thing goes, is absolutely ridiculous. And the reason why is because people like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and many of these other guys, they made their whole damn careers on criticizing the left, the woke, for telling them how they could and couldn't speak. They defended your First Amendment rights, saying, you should be allowed to say whatever you want. You should have your freedoms, things like that. They want to limit what you say, especially with Jordan Peterson. It was all about, the whole language thing with the pronouns and everything. These people are doing the same thing, okay? Now you're putting hate speech on people for asking questions about where our money and potentially our lives are going. What's interesting about that is a lot of you guys' main talking point was no more war, no more new wars. Those Trumps do, but you echoed it. You agreed with it. Oh my God, we're spending so much money in Ukraine and stuff like that. And we caught a glimpse of it because it would be Ukraine. And somebody would ask, well, what about the money that we're giving to Israel? And it was kind of like, change the subject, sidestep that, So in other words, you're allowed to criticize things as long as it's stuff you agree with. That's literally what we say the woke do. That's our criticism of the woke is you can ask questions about anything you want except the stuff I care about. Woke would be this FEMA law, I'll call it. I don't remember what it's actually called. The wording has been changed. There's essentially a very quick, I guess you could say, retraction. But basically it's saying that the cities and states that want to boycott Israeli companies, if they have a natural disaster, they cannot get funding. I seriously almost want to hug you if you're in Western North Carolina or Eastern Tennessee and you're hearing this for the first time. That's what it was. Don't we remember right after Helene that when FEMA came out, they were skipping houses that had Trump signs, and that was considered like the most evil thing that anyone could do? Well, that was one little supervisor within a bureau under a bureau under a bureau in FEMA. This is coming from high up. This is unbelievable. That would be woke. That you are going to say that you're just going to go ahead and die if you question anything, if you don't like what this other country's doing over there. Nope. Got to have that allegiance, man, or we can't help you. That's not America first, I'm sorry. And people like Shapiro are also basically telling you not to question what's going on. We're being laughed at and made fun of for wanting to kind of know the motives of certain people within government, to have certain things released, finding that important. Another video on that coming soon. But aren't these the people that were all about draining the swamp? Now, if you want us to just stick with the status quo and just trust everything and all of that stuff, that's fine. But why was it just a few months ago, it was all about there are dark entities and alliances within our government. There are things that we have to know about and we have to put an end to. Do you think everything was just fixed? I think Trump himself would say, hell no. No, not at all. And I've got a little list here that was put together by some of these people. I think most of this was in Kissin's video that defined the so-called woke right. If you say that you can't support warhawks that are all about forever wars, you don't like these neocons like Nikki Haley, who are just all about sending people off to unalive. You're anti-Semitic. It's hate speech. Can't criticize that. Nope. You must be talking bad about a certain group because you're racist. Or is it religionist? Both. Whatever. They're saying you can't be critical of America. According to these people, to get your support, to make money, and to get you to vote a certain way, America was a frickin' shambles just months ago. But again, it's all fixed. You can't question anything anymore. You're putting speech laws into effect. You say that the woke thing is all about being victimized. He said, and Shapiro said, wokeness is based in the ideology is based in victimization. You're basing speech laws in someone being the one group you can't talk about. Okay, the speech law part's bad enough. Okay. The whole point of MAGA was to change the system, to drain the swamp. I mean, it was about being critical. It was about being critical, having so-called open discussions and debates, and coming to a logical end. But now there can be no debate. It was about change. It was about not just trusting it. It was about questioning it. It was about voicing your opinion. Suddenly, anybody who gives a piece of history that doesn't go along with the American propaganda, they're a hate speaker, they're anti-American. I'll probably get this video taken down. USS Liberty. You can't talk about these things. You can't talk about certain agreements that happened just before World War II and stuff like that. And I mean, you have very educated people that are basically reading out of a damned encyclopedia, or they're reading a government document, and you're not allowed to do that. I mean, the whole point was to learn from our mistakes, better ourselves, correct our course, and the woke right people think that white Christians have been victimized. And to be honest with you, you played on that. You used that. For instance, you would say that Muslims were protected in ways that Christians aren't, and, oh, why don't you go try and say that or do that over there if you're a Christian? You use that. And it was, everything is about helping people of color beyond reason. Nobody cares about you. You use that. So for people to continue to go, hey, Mr. Shapiro, sir, am I still kind of being victimized? Are people still benefiting from the system while I'm losing? Don't you dare say that. You can't say that. Our government is infallible. And I know for 100% fact that most of you essentially champion nationalism. Well, for one, you hated globalism. America first, right? But all of a sudden, oh my God, man, these woke right guys are nationalists, and they think that they're victims, so they're going to do something bad. Are you kidding me? Number one, I'm going to call him your guy now, because the context of this is that people like me were used. Your guy got elected because of us. Trump won the election with, and he said this a lot, common sense. Okay? That appealed to people. The vote was not won by old school staunch Republicans. Not at all. I mean, look around you. There's not many of those left. It was the don't tread on me people who won the election. It was the sensible libertarians who won the election. It was the conservatives who wanted a voice for themselves and for every other hardworking American who won the election. It was not people who wanted to keep with the status quo and not ask any questions. Definitely wasn't that. What it seems that Shapiro and these guys want is a George W. Republican or something, a Dick Cheney Republican. Now, W, go look it up. W does have the highest approval rating in the history of American presidents, since that's been a stat that they kept. So there you go. Wartime president, but hey, we may have a wartime president now. It's just so insulting and so ironic to me at the same time that these are the people saying this stuff. These are the people that were like, listen, the public school system and academia has been lying to you. You know, you need to take a look at your history books, and you need to pay attention to what your kids are being taught in class. It's all lies. Can't ask questions now, or else we're anti-Semitic or we're conspiracy theorists, but more than anything else, we are woke right. Okay. Win the next election without people like myself, people like Dave Smith, people like Joe Rogan. Just keep going down the list. You know, because I think you'll come to find out when the rubber hits the road, when those issues that are that thick line become the final talking point, like all the noise is gone and there's only talk about, I think you'll find that a lot of your colleagues, they don't think like you. They want things to go in a different direction. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, for Christ's sakes, you got people calling Dave Smith an anti-Semite and he's Jewish. Really? Are you serious right now? We should all be having a big celebratory laugh together over the fact that they used to say that Trump was an Atzine, if you know Pig Latin, but yet he's got loyalty like I've never seen before, to use the Trump speech, for Israel. I mean, I'd almost forgive him if I thought he was doing that for that reason, just to prove he's not that. That's hyperbolic. But normally I like to address things in a more point-by-point, thorough, intelligent manner. But it's really hard to do with this. The exact people whose questions that you made them believe were valid, you're making a mockery of them now. I'm just saying, and it's take the inquisitive away, take the Q folks away, take the don't tread on me folks away, take the militia people out the picture. Shoot, in a way, I guess you're kind of kicking the Amish in the back too. Take the centrists away. Basically, good luck with quieting the questions you drilled into people's heads every single day, that they were free to think and ask questions and say, oh my God, we're going overboard here. Oh, geez, vote this out of there. You opened this can of worms. You told people that they needed to think for themselves, that they needed to stop trusting the media, that they needed to educate themselves, arm themselves with information. We're woke now. And you're the one that awakened us, or at least told us not to go back to bed because there are things that we needed to do. And those things are ask questions, read the bills that are passed, find the connections between people if something just doesn't seem right. You know, question when billions of dollars are going to a certain cause. Do not just have blind loyalty to a system that just a few months ago you said always lied to us. Do not have blind loyalty to them when lives are being taken somewhere. I am America first. Anyone else is a very distant second. I do not believe that when an ally of ours is involved in a conflict where just thousands and thousands of people are dying, that I'm just going to blindly say, oh yeah, they're doing that shit right. Trump did a favor for her by releasing the JFK files. I guess it's the woke right that wants the Epstein files. I'll proudly always ask questions when we back any type of conflict that I'm not seeing happen with my own eyes, that I don't have understanding of as far as the dynamic between those two groups. As a matter of fact, I will go read up on those two groups. I'm the type that'll go back hundreds or even thousands of years to know everything as far as the context goes in that situation before I just blindly trust my government. We are the ones who are supposed to say, that's enough. And yet, you know what conflict I'm talking about. But that's just emblematic of all of this, because that's where this particular guy that got me thinking about this again, that's where everything changes with him. Shapiro was awful critical of Trump. Really critical of Trump. When Trump bowed to Israel. Oh my God, now anybody that criticizes Trump, criticizes the Republican Party, you're woke right. You're bad for the party. I will always oppose the ridiculous spending and the corruption that's on the left. But I'll also look for it on the right. And I don't care if it's somebody I voted for or that I supported in the past that's doing it. I'm calling them out too. You awakened me. I was always awake. But you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that are in this group that you're calling woke right that we cannot survive without. I'm here to do the whole drain the swamp thing. What is draining the swamp? Draining the swamp is finding those people who usually work in concert with the media and even the educational system to sell narratives that benefit the few and are usually detrimental to the rest. And when I think of that, just based on my age, like where did I see horrible lying and corruption, to which we've never gotten totally to the root of it, no one's ever been punished, is Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. It was very recently that we just let a certain someone try and sell us again. Iran had nuclear weapons. I mean, it's like the 20th time in as many years. Every time it's wrong. But yet Trump is using it as a talking point. Meanwhile, what was it? 4, maybe 6 weeks earlier, Tulsi Gabbard, she told the truth. There was no nuclear capability there. And forgive me for being awake. It all reminded me of the Iraq War. Shouldn't it? Shouldn't I be awake to such things? Shouldn't I have pattern recognition? You guys talked a lot about that too. You know, if we're calling out violence of one group against themselves, there was always the pattern recognition talk. You know, you're always able to take the humanity out of it and use numbers, which is sometimes the only way to get to the truth. But my point is, all of a sudden it changes. It's interesting. I'm not some supporter of Palestine, just for those trying to read between the lines. There's no space between the lines when I'm thinking or writing or speaking, just for the record. But pattern recognition, again, God, there was 4 years of talk about how people were just indoctrinated by the educational system, and that on the campuses is where this was happening. Your kids and your young adults were being propagandized and everything like that. But now, when someone on a campus says something in support of Palestine, it's like, kick them out of school. You know, it's a lot of hypocritical stuff. I could be clearer, more concise. I could show up with my real notes. I could give dates and times, and I could read directly from bills and White House correspondence, and I could take clips from the news. I could take clips from Ben. I could put it all together, but this is a common sense situation, and isn't that what we were voting for, supposedly? Isn't that what Trump was about? The common sense party? Well, guess what? Trump wanted all of us to come to the party. Who he didn't want to show up? The same old neocon Republicans of old that were just as bad as the left. The left had just got out of control with the social stuff, but they're all the same. They're all the swamp. The worst thing about a lot of this, MAGA, for all intents and purposes, is dead. That schism I mentioned at the beginning, there's too many people that are unhappy. And it's not about the Epstein thing, though that's emblematic. When narratives changed overnight and pattern recognition, we remembered what that was like through the Biden years and the Obama years and the W years and the Clinton years. All the years that I'm privy to. There were some honest Reagan years, I think, but I was pretty young. But as we're going to cover in the video talking about whether or not Ghislaine should get a deal from the justice system, get her sweetheart deal, we'll let you know what we think of that. It went from, there's nothing to see here. Essentially, there is no network that we use as a talking point against the left for all those years. None of that exists. We look, there's nothing there. Dude, definitely, all of that stuff. It went from that to all of a sudden, when everybody freaked out over it and you couldn't talk about other stories and start other investigations that were big enough to quiet it, now all of a sudden it was, boom, subpoenas for people. Subpoenas for people with power. Maybe asking questions and getting loud and saying what we want and what we expect is what we should be doing. You think? We went from that to, well, there was the 4 Mar-a-Lago girls where he kind of stole them from me, and I guess he was, I don't know, using them for his gross exploits or whatever. The truth comes out. It only comes out when people ask questions and when people push and when they unify, not when they separate over one issue, essentially. I mean, it's really just one question. It's one issue. But that's all it takes sometimes. And just for the record, before I sign off, yes, I'm still a Trump supporter. I just feel like the magic is gone. I will say one positive thing. MAGA is MAGA. And it can be MAGA without Trump.